G'day, welcome to another episode of A Pirate in Chains, the exploits of convict 6071 James Jimmy Harrison, my great-great-great-grandfather. Today we're outside the Hobart Penitentiary. It wasn't actually originally the Hobart Penitentiary, it only became that after the Hobart Town Jail closed. This was originally the prisoners' barracks, and this was the centre of the convict probation system. From here, convicts were allocated out around the probation stations around Van Diemen's Land. And Jimmy, passed through this building many times in his convict career. Today, in this episode, we're going on a little bit of a road trip because we're going to be examining a number of those probation stations. We'll start south of Hobart at Browns River, and then we'll head up in the Midlands to the probation station at Lovely Banks. And from there, we'll head down through the Coal Valley and out to the east coast and up the east coast to the probation station at Rocky Hills, with a little aside about the probation station at Long Point. And from Rocky Hills, we'll head north and inland, in fact, to the Convict Road Station at Cleveland and the Convict Probation Station at Fingal. So I hope you enjoy it. James entered the first stage of the probation system, and the first place he was to be sent after being processed at the prisoners' barracks was here in Browns River for 4 months. He arrived here on the 7th of February 1845. The Brickfield site is one of the few remaining traces of the Browns River Probation Station. It was here that the convicts made the classic convict brick. So we don't have any evidence of James getting up to any issues here at Browns River, so we don't know exactly where he was. But there's a good chance that he was involved in making these bricks back in 1845. This was the superintendent's residence for the Browns River Probation Station, where James was intended to spend 4 months. And the task of the prisoners here, there were about 300, was to build this road. And I don't know how many thousands of times, literally thousands of times, I would have driven or ridden on this road. But just to think that my great-great-great-grandfather, Jimmy Harrison, probably helped build it. Anyway, he left here on the 27th of February 1845, so only spent 3 weeks rather than the 4 months. No explanation as to why, no record of any misconduct, but he was headed north, up the Midlands, to the probation station at Lovely Banks. So we're driving along the Midlands Highway just out of Kempton, approaching Melton Mowbray. And I used to drive this road every day for 4 or 5 years when I worked in my first teaching job at Oakland School. And I didn't appreciate the significance that this road and this area actually had to my ancestor, 6071, Jimmy Harrison. We're heading north to a probation station about halfway between Kempton and Oatlands, and we'll explore what Jimmy got up to there. Well, I guess this is another example of the privatisation of Tasmania's convict heritage. We're here at the remains of the probation station at Lovelybanks. Now, Lovelybanks is the name of this property as well, owned by the McShane family. I actually played tennis with the McShanes back early 90s when I was teaching at Oakland School. But I didn't think I'd actually have to seek their permission because the road behind us, Tedworth Drive, was a public road. It doesn't look like it today. So the closest we're going to be able to get to the probation station is from the highway. So we'll take a walk along the highway and see what footage we can get. But it is a bit of a shame. I mean, it's happened at the Cascades, it's happened here. Yeah, a bit disappointing that you can't get access and have a look. And understandably, some of the buildings are actually owned by the McShanes and they're on their property, but there's a really interesting bridge which we'll have a look at as well. The Lovelybanks probation station opened in 1839 and existed until mid-1845, a mere 6 years. James arrived here on the 26th of March 1845, in the last months of the probation station's operation, and stayed here until the station closed. On the 7th of June, James was released from the first stage of probation, but only 2 days later he was insolent to the assistant superintendent and had his probation extended by 2 months. Can't take a trick out, Jimmy, can he? So in early July 1845, this probation station at Lovelybanks came to a close, and with it James's time here also came to a close. And he set off for the next stage to a probation station on the east coast of Tasmania named Rocky Hills. And he probably headed down this very road which we're going to head down right now. This is the remains of the original old convict road on the left-hand side of the Prosser River, coming into what's now the town of Orford. And in 1845, the convicts, including 6071 James Jimmy Harrison, would have been coming to about halfway, maybe a bit over halfway of their trip to Rocky Hills from Lovelybanks. We presume they came on foot, and I've been driving for over an hour already, and we've still got maybe another half an hour to 45 minutes of driving to go. So it was a fair hike, literally. Well, we're 126 kilometres from Lovelybanks, as the convicts themselves would have travelled, pretty much all by foot. So it's a fair hike, as I said, from Lovelybanks to here, because we finally made it to Rocky Hills. The Rocky Hills probation station extended pretty much from here all the way down to Mayfield Beach in the distance. Spread out over quite a large area with a large number of individual encampments. And it was established in 1841, largely for the purpose of building the roads here on the east coast of Tasmania. This is the three-arch bridge. It was built by convict labour in 1845. So Jimmy probably helped build this bridge because it was built by the convicts from the Rocky Hills probation station, the encampment which was spread right across this area. It's unfortunate that it's not more widely known because maybe it's a little bit more protected than these dickheads graffitiing it. Some more of Jimmy's handiwork. Again, pity about the graffiti. What an absolute dick. Worst places to be locked up, I guess. On the 23rd of July, James was AWOL again, running away, or at least he might have wanted to run down to the beach. And for that, he had his probation extended by another 2 months. So this is the famous Spiky Bridge. It's about 6 or 7 k's north of Rocky Hills and was built by the convicts from the Rocky Hills probation station. And it's one of the most impressive remaining convict structures here on the east coast. And yes, it was finished at the time when Jimmy was around, so he probably helped build this bridge too. Interesting that I have to come all the way here to the Spiky Bridge to actually see a plan of the Rocky Hills probation station, but looks like it was built in a radial format with the cells radiating out from the centre. Well, it says here on this sign that the convicts were, and I quote, absconding was particularly prevalent at this station. I wonder who one of them was. On the 8th of August 1845, James couldn't help himself and he absconded again. This time just not absent without leave, this time he really took off. And 2 days later, they finally apprehended him. And on the 13th of August, as a result, he was sentenced to an additional 3 months hard labour in chains, which was to be served not here at Rocky Hills, but south on Mariah Island, at the southernmost of the two probation stations there, Long Point. So this is the Prosser River by the little town of Orford on Tasmania's east coast. Orford sometimes seen as the gateway to the east coast. And it was from here, from this port, that the probation settlements on Mariah Island were serviced. So James would have embarked upon a vessel pretty much right where I'm standing for the short hop across the channel to Mariah Island. Mariah Island was the home of two probation stations, one at Darlington directly across from Orford, and the other one 12, 13 k's further south at Long Point, and that's where they sent James. On the 21st of August 1845, he took a boat from here in Orford over to the island and would begin his 3 months hard labour in chains. Well, this is about as close as I'm going to be able to get to Long Point, because the ferry takes you over to Mariah Island in the distance to Darlington, and from Darlington it's a 12 to 16 kilometre walk one way to Long Point behind us. So until I can get a boat, I won't be visiting, because there are actually remains of the probation station at Long Point, and that's where James spent those 3 months in hard labour. Now it's one of the most treasured holiday places in Tasmania, but remember, this was 1845 and pretty much every beautiful part of Tasmania was just a prison. And on the 31st of October, he took a boat back, arrived here again, and this time headed further north. So we're here in the little town of Falmouth on the east coast of Tasmania. And when he'd finished his 3 months in hard labour at Long Point, James was transferred to a probation station inland from here at Fingal. Dad's history records that he was transported by boat from Long Point to here at Falmouth, but there's no berthing facility here now, and as an experienced sailor, it doesn't look like it's the best and most convenient place to come ashore. There was a probation station here in the 1840s in Falmouth. People came down over the hill from St Mary's to construct it. So it may be that that's where Dad's confusion lies, because there's nothing in James's conduct record to indicate that he was ever at the Falmouth probation station. So it is a little bit of a mystery. I think it's more likely he probably travelled up again from overland from Orford, but who knows? It's a pretty cool place anyway, isn't it? So we're here in the northern Midlands hamlet of Cleveland. This one is a little bit of a mystery because it's not recorded in Dad's history of Jimmy that he spent any time here, but in the recently acquired transcript of his conduct record that I was sent by the Port Arthur Historic Site Authority, they record on the 6th of March 1846, James arrived here. Now, there was a convict road station here, but not an actual probation station. And we are some 85 k's from Falmouth and 57 k's from Fingal. And we know that he started at Fingal on the 25th of March. So he was here for only 3 weeks. At least a week each way would have been travelling, I would have thought. So anyway, but we're here anyway. And the historic St Andrews Inn behind us was built by convicts in 1845. So we were around the same time period at least. Not much remains of the Fingal probation station today, but at its time it held between 300 to 400 convicts on this block bounded by the Tasman Highway, Talbot Street, Legg Street and Frank Street. So it was quite a large operation. James arrived here on the 25th of March 1846. It's only about a month later that he was found absent. And must have been a kind-hearted superintendent. The superintendent's quarters were located here where the Tasmanian Police Station now is located, because James was only admonished for that absence. These are the convict cells at the Fingal probation station. These were used for solitary confinement and punishing those prisoners who couldn't abide by the rules. And on the 5th of May 1846, James spent 21 days in solitary in one of these very cells here after he was convicted of larceny of an amount under £5. Records don't recall what actually he stole, so we have no idea. But it was the first time he'd actually been convicted for larceny, as far as I can recall. Normally it was smoking, insolence, abuse, absconding, etc. But not stealing, not since the 9 books and the 3 shoes. Maybe he stole the 4th shoe. After that 21 days in solitary, James was deprived of his pass and he was sentenced to an extra 12 months of probation to be served at the Cascades. He'd been here for about 2 months. Maybe they didn't like him. So that concludes this episode of A Pirate in Chains. The next episode in the series is where James heads to the Cascades on the Tasman Peninsula. Now, you might have already seen that episode, but if you haven't, please check it out. It's a short one, but it's an interesting one. So yeah, if you enjoyed this one, please click like, please subscribe, leave a comment, tell some stories about your convict ancestors, and we'll see you sometime somewhere in Tasmania and Diemen's Land on the trail of the pirate in chains. Thanks for watching. Another little family aside is that for many years my grandparents, Keith and Jean, Keith being James's great-grandson, lived here in the town of Orford, and we would visit them every holidays. And I never once knew that I had a convict ancestor, James Jimmy Harrison, who certainly frequented this place, at least going to and from Mariah Island.